This is your regular reminder that 2 Timothy 3:16 probably doesn't say what you think it says. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion, and a lot of people are familiar with 2 Timothy 3:16, which says all scripture is theopneustos and is useful for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness. And that Greek word theopneustos literally means God-breathed. And this has long been understood to mean inspired, and it doesn't mean that. And we know this for a few different reasons. One, the word for inspired is entheos, and this word was in widespread use in the Greco-Roman world around the time that 2 Timothy was written. Another thing to make clear here, however, is that 2 Timothy was probably written toward the end of the 1st century CE or the beginning of the 2nd century CE. And if you're thinking, hey, wait a minute, that's after Paul died, you are correct. The majority of scholars believe that the pastoral epistles, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, and Titus, were not written by Paul. They were written by someone pretending to be Paul after Paul passed away. I think they were probably written towards the beginning of the 2nd century CE. But in that time period, entheos was the Greek word you used to refer to God controlling someone's executive functions or filling them with the Spirit to guide their activity. Theopneustos was not used that way. Theopneustos was used to refer to things like sandals and streams of water and ointments that were used to maintain the lifelike appearance of corpses for 3 days after the death of the person. So, what on earth does theopneustos mean? Well, I think the best scholarship on this question right now is John C. Poirier's book, The Invention of the Inspired Text. And Poirier demonstrates that the idea of God breathed here is not inspired, but God breathed the breath of life into the first human. In other words, life-giving. So, streams of water, sandals, ointments that maintain the lifelike appearance of a dead body for the time period during which the spirit could return to the body and the person could be revived. The idea is life-giving. The first time we see this word being used clearly to mean inspired in the sense we understand it today is in the 3rd century CE with the writings of Origen. Prior to that, it was used to mean life-giving or given life by God. Not inspired by God, but made alive by God. So this makes the best sense of what's going on in 2 Timothy 3:16. A far more accurate translation would be, all Scripture is life-giving and is useful for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness. And what Scripture is this talking about? Jewish Scripture. To the degree that it might be talking about Christian Scripture, it would be referring probably just to the Gospels and maybe to some of the writings of Paul, but probably not yet. The first indication that we have of anyone thinking of Paul's writings as Scripture is in 2 Peter, and that text wasn't even written until after the pastoral epistles were written. So the text here is talking about Jewish Scripture, which is not your Old Testament. It is an unbound collection of scriptures that included a lot of texts that we no longer consider scripture within the Christian tradition, and probably excluded some texts that we now consider scripture. So 2 Timothy 3:16 is just saying that this unbound collection of Jewish scripture and maybe the Gospels, and perhaps, but not likely, Paul, are life-giving and are useful for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness. So now you know what the author of 2 Timothy 3:16 was trying to communicate, and you have a better understanding of what's in the Bible. And the fit for this video has been the Spawn #1 cover.